Hello! It's my birthday today. I'm 21 years old. I can now legally drink in America. Isn't that amazing? Especially considering how much less often I've been drinking the more I age. I want to talk about a few things today. Here are the spoilers. I'm not sure if I'm gonna get to all of them. So, let's go to remaps using my harp, which I talked about on the last stream. There are actually no. We go to window, whole different file. Let's grab the chat into there as well, blammo. So, there are a few ways you can tile in NeoVim. 3 distinct first actions for tiling that you can take. First of all, you can create a new tile of a blank buffer. You can see here, because of the question marks, this is a new unnamed buffer. New file. Just close it. You can also tile with the same file. Whoops, that's a whole different thing. Lamau. What did I mean? I mean this. So, blammo, window, and if we go up, we are still in window. We split the current file into 2. And then you can also split the alternative file. So this is the other file that I had open. This is remaps and this is window. So 3 distinct first action tiling that you can do. Why that? Because it is in the NeoVim/Vim API in terms of like commands and hotkeys that let you do all of this, like as a first thing. Then of course you can also make a split with some other file that you somehow find, usually through telescope. So let's like do neoconf blammo like that, but I want to talk about these main 3. The main idea of NeoVim is that you can either tile right, let's tile this right, or you can tile down. And that depends on, let's go to options, that depends on split below and split right. So by default you don't really get a choice to tile into all directions. You have to first tile to either a vertical direction or a horizontal one. Hello! So, and then you have to somehow fix it. You have to somehow change the previously right split into a left split, for example. You don't usually get to just, oh, let's tile this left. No, you can tile it vertically. That's the distinction it makes, and it's pretty different from a bunch of other places that has tiling. In VS Code, for example, yeah, you get the choice to split into all directions. Oh, interesting. I instantly forgot what other places has tiling like this. But I think Tmux is also like either vertical or horizontal rather than directional. And Kitty has layouts rather than going into some direction. But turns out you can just inline saying, oh, change this setting, this option that I just showed you, and instead of the default, use the other one. So I have made myself remaps that tile into the other 2 directions as well. So now I can tile the current window up or left. How do I do that? Here are my mappings. There they are. So for the down and the left, I use the usual split and v-split commands. Pretty usual. But to override the default setting that tells it, oh, you should split down or split right, I override it here to mean now do this v-split to the left instead, and which is why I can do this. This is really, really convenient because of especially this, because this is the same thing but for new files, except I can now just open a new buffer as the whole window. Oops. Boom. Why is this convenient? You will not always have an option when you open something to split it anywhere, for that matter. For example, oil.newvim, an incredible plugin that I talked about 2 streams ago. No GQ, not the default mapping by the way, and it opens in the current window. I do not have an option to split oil into a different window, which is why what I can do is split first and then open oil. So it's as if I am like splitting oil, but just in 2 steps, which is exactly why it can be useful. Because I can do, split here and then open oil here. I wouldn't usually be able to do this. What I would usually have to do is first split it down, then go up and open it here, which is very similar. However, I still do take an extra step of switching to the upper window. And then if I have more windows open, that just very soon becomes impossible. Then I can also split the alternate file, the file that I was just in, via these mappings. These are a bit more complicated. First we use execute, then the same things, vertical, left above, similar to what we do here, and then we specify a mapping, I guess I should say, right? Yeah, a mapping that we'd have to execute. Unfortunately, there is no way to like immediately split the alternate file via a command. You have to press a keybind, which is why we're using normal plus execute here, which gives us this functionality. It's pretty neat. So now I can split the alternate file here, which is really cool. So I've actually been using this a lot, opening a split here and then maybe telescope, I don't know, something kill ring. What I would have to do instead is kill ring and then choose to split down, and then I would have to do my mapping, which essentially just means Control W X, which switches these 2 tiles. Boom. So now I get a bit more options, a bit more easily, which I find pretty nice. And then, to make more sense, I continued the idea of the mappings. So this one activates the previously active tile, and this one just goes to the alternate file. So I can do this, and boom. That is of course more keys to press by a long shot than just Control caret or Control 6, I guess. It is more, but I do not like how it uses a modifier for an action that usually can only be done once. It doesn't really make sense, you know? I tried doing something really stupid the other day. So I have like lube, sex lube. I'm not sure how to properly call it. And I thought, while cleaning my keyboard, well, hold up now, it cannot be that different. What if I lubed my switches with like anal lube? Surely that will give me some benefit. Maybe the key presses will be more clean and nice. So that was a mistake. That was just straight up a mistake. I know, right? First of all, my keyboard very soon started smelling like ass, which makes sense. And then also that lube, turns out, was a bit too much in a few places, so it dripped like into the keyboard, and then I couldn't press some keys. I got kind of panicked, because like, oh shit, did I fucking kill my keyboard and now I can't press some keys? That's really, really bad. Thankfully I've been able to clean it then, and then now everything works. What I have learned from that is that, no, yeah, that's as stupid of an idea as it sounded. Very much so. So yeah, I don't recommend it. I feel like I'm the only person on Earth, well, maybe not to that extent, but still, kind of rare to attempt an idea this stupid. But just in case you thought about it too, I do not recommend doing it. Fantastic story. Happy birthday. Thank you. Alright, what's next on our agenda? GF, a very, very cool mapping. They're actually known about for quite some time, but I never mentioned it. It's kind of obscure, but it's actually very, very useful. Let's go and create an empty file, and let's type some path. So I am currently in .files, and I know that in the root of .files I have colors.css. Once I press GF on it, I go to colors.css. How did that work? That worked by getting the file name under the cursor and going into that file. Isn't that fucking incredible? Then, better yet, I can say, oh, let's go to the 10th line of colors CSS. I do GF. Oh, hold up. G capital F. Maybe G capital F? Yeah, boom. And now I go to the 10th line in colors.css. I think GF. Let's go back and do GF. Yeah, so G lowercase f just goes to the file, ignores that number. But if you do G capital F, it also considers this number that you specify here to go there, to go to the 10th line of color CSS. This is really, really neat. Like, you can, for example, keep a file that contains all the common places that you have. If, for example, you don't want to use marks for some reason, well, just boom, blammo. You can just use that. Better yet, let's do neovim. Neovim is a directory that I have here, as you can see. So I do GF, and it opens that directory. By default, it will use netrw, Vim's built-in thing that goes within directories. But because I use oil.neovim, once again, I super recommend this plugin. This is legit my favorite neovim plugin. It is incredible. 2 streams ago, made a whole stream about it. It's amazing. So I could just go onto this folder and edit it here. I don't think that this will do anything. Let's do like 5. G capital F. Yeah, that's what I thought. It doesn't really make sense that it would do anything. Boom. So that's what GF does. GF and G capital F. Very neat things to remember, because we do glaza. Let's go to main or something, and maybe somewhere in here I might see a path to a file, for example, and it could be like, oh, GF, and I go to the file that it references, that my code references. I've been using Haruna as my video player for the longest time, but since I switched from KDE to Awesome Window Manager, all of my Qt apps started like being ass. It just broke. All the theming was really ass, and LX appearance really isn't quite there to solve everything. So I just decided, okay, I'm just gonna use a different fucking app. And that's where I discovered MPV. MPV is actually used by Haruna for like most of the features. And turns out that MPV is just straight up better than Haruna. I did not expect that. So let me show you that. Let me show you MPV. I have a bunch of YouTube videos downloaded here. So let's go open one of them. Boom, here's the video. You can set a mapping to show your current progress in the video. By default, once you hover down, it will also show you a bunch of stats here. But I found them really ugly, which is why I disabled them, which is a thing that you can do, which is really nice. Like, you don't have to see them ever. I can just look at the progress like this, either by just tapping A, and it will stay for my configured time of seconds, or I can just like hold it and it will keep it open as far as I want to. Maybe actually what I should do is that make it stay for like 1 millisecond or something, or just 1 second or half a second, and just use it like this when I want to look at it. It's an interesting approach. The nice thing about MPV is just how nice it is to configure the hotkeys for it. Let's go to MPV input. You can make your own hotkeys that go your amount of seconds to some specific place. You can literally make a hotkey that goes to the 38th second in the video. That is something you can do, and it's like very simple. Just do this. Boom. You stick to the 38th second because of the absolute. That's not something I've seen in any editor, or rather in any video player, because it's kind of an unreasonable feature to implement, you know? But MPV does have it. Similarly, I've made a bunch of mappings here that go 3 seconds to both directions, 10 seconds, 30, a minute, 3 minutes, 10 minutes, and 30 minutes. I decided that it makes the most sense for these numbers to have hotkeys for, but you can decide whatever you want. Whatever makes the most sense to you. And this kind of power is really nice, because really often in video players, you have a maximum of 3 options: a small move, a medium move, and a big move. Why they are restricted like that, I do not have a clue. It's kind of strange. When in reality, you should just give to the user an ability to make a mapping for move, and then they decide by how much and how many hotkeys they have for that. The benefit that I've gotten from this is from watching anime and skipping openings. I skip most openings. Usually openings are kind of ass. And thanks to this kind of precision, what I can do is learn how long the opening takes, and then I just say, okay, V to skip a minute, then C to skip 30 seconds, and then E to skip 6 more seconds. So 1.5 minutes and 12 seconds in total. Bloom, bam, blammo, bloom. And if you wanted to, you could make more hotkeys to be even more specific, like maybe for 1 second, maybe like for, I don't know, 6 seconds, 5 seconds, something like that, to be very precise. It is really, really nice. Then you can make a thing to take a screenshot that you configure in MPV. Yeah, here, so screenshot format, so the file format that you take the screenshot on in a screenshot directory where they're going to be saved, and template, the file name of the screenshot that you take. Then we have the value, the power of cycle values. So cycle values, as I understood it, changes some setting that you currently see here. This is obviously not all of the settings. These are only settings that I've changed or decided I might change. But all of these settings, as far as I know, you can just cycle. You make a hotkey that changes between multiple different possible values for this option. So for the option of geometry, I might possibly have 2 different things that I want the geometry to be. The first one is the default one, the geometry that I will usually want. And the second one is kind of special, so let me go show you. Here I have the video open, and if I switch to the other window on the tag, you can see that they're the same size. If you look at the borders all here, they do not change, so that clearly tells us that they are the same size. That is not the default. This is the default, and we can see here the remnants of the terminal that's opened behind MPV. So this resolution is 1920 by 1080, and it doesn't have enough width that I actually need. But with this geometry, it's not an issue. Just do this, and here we go. Whoops. Now it covers the terminal completely. And the reason why I cycle these 2 values is because I can make it be normal, and then make the window floating, sticky on top. Then I resize it, move it, and then I can go do anything else that I was doing while watching a video. I do this very often with ASMR. While if it was 210 still, it would still have those borders, which are usually needed, but not in this case, you know? So this is a pretty specific use case that I have for this. And it just goes to show how stretchy MPV is. You can use it as you specifically want to use it, which is really cool. Then we have full screen. This is pretty usual. I also make this for the mouse buttons. So left is pause, right is full screen. I never use them because I do everything from the keyboard, and thanks to this, it's very easy to do everything from the keyboard. So if I removed them, I wouldn't notice for a long time, but they're still nice to just happen to have. And similarly, space is play pause, A is show progress that I've just shown you. Here I'm cycling values again to loop the file or not. And this is pretty important. Quit watch later closes MPV, but it also remembers the position that you left off on, because if I go back and try to open the file again, it is still where I was watching it because I used quit watch later. This actually might be also a setting, I don't quite remember. Oh yeah, it is. Save position on quit. So if you disable this, then you can have two different mappings. So for example, D is quit and capital D is quit watch later. So you might want to differentiate between that, and you can. Personally, I don't, but I think it's a cool feature to have regardless. Weirdly enough though, MPV when it's open, for some reason it kind of takes a lot of processing power, but not processing power that I can notice in numbers, but only processing power that I can then notice in other apps. Back when I used NeoVide, if I had an MPV open, an MPV window open, what would happen is that NeoVide would suddenly become very laggy, noticeably so, and animations and all that stuff would be pretty slow. You would think something like MPV wouldn't have this issue, it's pretty bare bones, but surprisingly enough, it had a considerably noticeable effect. So that's something to look out for. But otherwise, the video player is just so good that truthfully it's very, very worth it. I showed here me making the video, first of all sticky, then always on top, and then floating. First of all, also let's make it the normal geometry. I resized it with the mouse first, but it's actually not what I have to do anymore. I turn on my, hold up, let me actually just move the window so you can see what's happening here. It will show you when I have mouse mode open and when it's disabled. It is currently disabled. Turn on mouse mode. Then let's move the cursor to the middle of the screen and press N. Now I can quickly move my cursor here, and that moves the fucking window. So the mouse mode that I've been having for quite a long time, I can now use in accordance with doing stuff with Windows. I can use the mouse movement that I'm so used to do more stuff now with the window, because moving and resizing is pretty common for floating windows, that it would be something that you want to do, and previously mouse mode wasn't quite ready for that kind of functionality, but now it is, because if I press Y, I am now in move and resize mode. So, oh interesting, oh yeah, it wouldn't show you what keys I'm pressing because they are intercepted by X remap. So I do J, L, K, H to move the window. Similarly, I can also do those with Shift so that they are bigger moves, Alt so that they are smaller moves than default, and Control to make them even smaller, and then Meta to make them by pixel, so it can be like really precise if I want to. Then S, D, F, and G are the same thing, same modifiers too, but for resizing the window instead. So I can do Shift F to make it less tall, but because MPV also automatically changes the width, I don't need to press Shift S to make it less wide, so I can just press Shift F. And now I just want a smaller change, even a bit smaller, and now I'm fine. Now I can come back to normal mouse mode, say N, C, see how I moved the window very quickly? I can now go to the middle of the screen. Actually, let's go here with Control D, then do N, C again. All right, now I more or less have the window where I want to. Now we can go back to move and resize mode with Y, Shift J, H. Surprisingly, we're basically perfect, but to make it even more perfect, I use Meta plus J, Meta plus K, Meta plus H, Meta plus L. And now the window is in the correct place where I want it to. And now I can continue on doing whatever I want to do while watching ASMR, for example, or some podcast or whatever it might be, which is really nice. Hey yo! Thank you! Boom! So now I can actually pretty easily move windows and resize windows without using my mouse. The extra benefit of this is that it's not like they are always resized by 1 pixel, or always by 5, or always by 100. No, thanks to different modifiers, I get to choose how much the steps are. How much does it resize per step? Which is really nice. So it can be pretty precise and efficient, rather than either having to hold down the same hotkey for a long time so that it would resize correctly. And I'm not limited in precision because I can be as precise as 1 pixel. It's the best of both worlds. Let's go to this and press D. How do I do this? I use X remap, and so yeah, here we go. So we have move mode that uses the API of Awesome Window Manager, which interestingly, I learned this I think yesterday. Awesome Window Manager calls itself a window manager framework. It doesn't call itself a window manager. It calls itself a window manager framework, or at least on the subreddit for AwesomeVM, that's what they call it, which is actually really neat. I agree, because if you look at Awesome Window Manager at face value, it is not complete at all. Look at all of the widgets that I have here. I will show you the widgets that are built in. I still have to configure them, but they are built in at least. This clock is built in, as well as this. You can configure the format. And this tag list that shows you all of the workspaces that you have. with a configurable filter. Yeah, that's it. Those are the two default, although configured, awesome window manager widgets that I use. Everything else I have made on my own. This one, and it continues. This. All of them I made on my own. Even for obvious features like a thing that shows you your layout, a thing that shows you your caps lock state, a Wi-Fi widget, a Bluetooth widget, everything that you would usually, fucking volume, everything that you would usually expect to just to be built in to your window manager desktop environment. It's not there. It is not there in Awesome Window Manager. You have to make it in one way or another. Which is precisely why naming it a framework makes a lot of sense. Because it's not fully there quite yet. For sure. But also I don't think that it has in its ideology to improve necessarily. It doesn't need to improve. It explores its idea very well. It provides you an API to work with your windows, and then you get to decide how everything works. Of course, that also gives you the responsibility to make sure everything works as you expect and as you want, but also gives you that power. So I don't exactly expect or even want Awesome Window Manager to become more user-friendly and include more stuff. I don't necessarily care about that, because for someone like me, it's honestly perfect. I get to make everything exactly as I want. It's pretty neat. But also requires a lot of energy and time spent on it. So I use Awesome Window Manager's API to relative move the focused client into somewhere. So all of these, just move it, and then once we go down, all of these resize it with width and height. Let me give you an example that can be resized in both places. Here I have this screenshot that is now hovering over my screen as a window. Let's go resize it. I can make it of a bigger height, which looks really funny, and then of a bigger width. Let's move it. Interesting. It still needs... Yeah, this is almost. Interestingly, as you can see from this little thingy, once it's sized a bit weirdly, you get this little thing that lets you go through the image. So we have to actually actively remember to go to the previous window so we can continue resizing. Oops. And then it focuses that window again, annoyingly. But yeah, you get the idea. Oops. Can we... Why is that 2? Thank you very much. Enter percent change in color brightness. I was pressing escape all of these characters. However, I interpreted them as that. which is really strange. I'll just close everything. So many happy birthdays. That's so nice. Super neat. Thank you. And then, thanks to the feature of X remap that lets you have some hotkeys first, and then if they aren't active, fall back on the hotkeys that go after. This kind of idea. Thanks to that, I can use the same exact hotkeys in a different mode to just move my cursor. That's pretty nice. I like that quite a lot. Let's talk about git signs. I've been using them for quite some time at this point. We just haven't gotten around to actually talking about them. But git signs might be my third. Yeah, it very much might be my third favorite plugin. No, fourth favorite plugin. And that's like high praise, by the way, considering just how many plugins I have installed. So, what is it for? Git signs shows you signs related to the git status of the current buffer. So if you use VS Code, for example, or assume most IDEs, usually there's git integration that shows you a special like line next to your line numbers, where it tells you, oh, these lines are new, these are modified, there was a deletion here. Git signs is that. However, a bit better, because an option that you have is to just recolor some line numbers. So this line I just added in the newest commit. So it's now green. So that's how you can show it. Or alternatively, you can make the entire line green. That's a bit too much for my liking, which is why I don't, but you can. Maybe you like that. And you get that option. But the default is to show it as a sign to the left of your line numbers. Let's go to my git signs config. Wait. Yeah, fucking word diff, of course. What? Huh. I know, right? Like, it's incredible. It's really, really cool. So these are the main settings that I just explained. This is just set to true. You can trust me or otherwise read the README on git signs. And let me immediately go look for it so I can give you a link to it. As usual, I will usually only talk about things that are particularly interesting or maybe hard to find or important in some other way, rather than the more like boring stuff that you'll probably like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll enable this, you know? Yeah, you can make current line blame, where if you are on a line, it will show you in virtual text, this was committed on this date by this person with this message. I have never needed this, considering that all of my projects there's only me working on, so I haven't needed that. I don't think I've ever used git blame, ever. It might have some extra nice features that I haven't learned about, so I probably should, but yeah. As you can see from the comments, you can toggle all of these functionalities pretty easily while you're in the file. So I can do git signs, also I've never done this by the way, toggle current line blame. Just press tab so you can autocomplete it. Blammo. And now, in theory, it will show it. Oh, it just takes kind of some time. Oh, that's actually pretty nice. The fact that as you go, it won't like annoy you with constantly showing that. Once you stay on a line, it says that. Interesting. Ah, because of delay. See, I just copied that configuration from the default one. I don't actually intend to use this, but that's how it looks. It's pretty nice. Like, okay. But let's disable that because I sincerely don't care. You can even format it how you want. All of these are defaults, which is why I'm skipping over them. If they're default, that's probably mean that they don't particularly matter, at least to me. They might actually matter to you, but I don't have much to say about them. I have no fucking clue what yadam is supposed to mean. What the fuck is yadam? Yadam? Seriously? Yadam. Yadam. Let me fucking enable yadam. Like what? So unattach function buff number. This is really important. It's very hyper specific, not particularly well explained, and very mysteriously strange. You have to make the mappings for get signs very specifically like here. Otherwise they will not work. Why? Fucking God knows why. I don't know. So you make the mappings appear on attach. Once get signs attaches to a buffer, that's when you make remaps for that buffer. Which is why this function takes a buff number. It's not a concept that's going to be obvious to everyone, but in a bunch of places, closures or fat arrow functions, like in AutoHotkey, if you know me from that era, or lambdas from Python, there are probably more names for this concept, but essentially a function that takes a bunch of arguments. So when onAttach happens, it automatically passes some arguments into this function that you define. And onAttach only passes, as far as I know, only passes the buffer number that it attached to. And now we can use this as a variable. So you define package. Doesn't really matter how this is called, but you do this. You might say, okay, what is package? Well, it is something that is available to us. How exactly, right? I don't ever define it myself what this variable is, but is somehow available to us. How? No clue. It's the usual fucking black magic of NeoVim Lua, as usual. So you do this. How this works, I have no clue, but it's the only way I've been able to make this work. Then you make this local function that automatically uses the buffer number passed to us from onAttach, and that is what you use to make your hotkeys. Let's come back to these a bit later. So we use the special map to make our hotkeys for the different actions that getSigns provides. You can do a bunch of different actions. I'll just talk about them. You can stage the entire hunk, the entire git hunk that you currently have under your cursor. You can undo the previous hunk that you staged, so unstage the previous hunk. You can stage all lines in your visual selection. can stage the entire buffer, you can unstage the entire buffer, you can reset the hunk that you're currently looking at, you can reset the lines that you have selected, you can reset the entire buffer, you can preview the hunk inline like this, which looks really nice in my opinion. It's like pretty neat. So maybe you change something, you're like, wait, what changed here? Oh, I see, I changed it to true. Okay, you know, it's very convenient. And then if you want to have a bit of a more power with that text, you can open it as its own buffer. And now I can go copy this, for example, and be like, I can scroll it, and it's just a buffer. So all of my usual actions that I can do on a normal buffer, they work here. So this is useful for when you want to do a bit more with that git diff effectively. So it can be pretty neat. However, I don't particularly use it often, but for sure, I feel like I am going to notice it being useful. Then with this command, git signs show, you can show this file, this buffer, at a certain commit. So you can do something like head. Oh, interesting, it even shows you caps off. That's interesting, I didn't know that. Huh. Rather, show it 3 commits ago. And believe it or not, it shows you this current file 3 commits ago. This is incredible. With VS Code, it was doable, but it was far more annoying. Here's just a direct command that you can execute, and I'm like, okay, I see. You know? And then you can diff this, which means I can do git signs diff this to head 3 commits ago, and you can see var1 happy around the birthday. Aw, thank you. I haven't seen you in a while, Ozzy. I'm happy to see you here. So boom, I can easily see a diff. So this is the current file, and this is the old file, so 3 commits ago. And you can be like, okay, and then you just close it, and you're back to your normal file. And then you also get, let me create a few changes. You can see by the green that there are new time zones. All good though. Yeah, true, I guess. Because I'm all the way in fucking ass of nowhere, Russia. I still find it kind of hilarious and ridiculous. Like, what is girl doing in fucking Russia, right? So, you can make a text object for a git hunk. So I can do delete inside git hunk, and it deletes everything there. It's 6:24 p.m. here. Oh wow. Oh wait, hold up, no. Wait, our time zones are actually pretty close, because it's currently 3. Oh well, yeah. You can see. You can see. I have my clock visible here. It's 3:24. Because I was just looking up at the physical clock that I have here, because actually very easier for me to tell time from a physical clock than a digital one. I actually didn't expect that our time zones are this similar. Yep, mood. It's my birthday today. I'm turning 21 years old. I'm 21, that's crazy. So yeah, I can also use the operators from other plugins, for example, to comment out inside git hunk. And if it had some lines here, let's actually change them. Let's do like 10 capital S. Oh, that's interesting behavior. Okay, let's do 10 capital A. Do this. Something, enter. Just dropping by and now I'm gonna go sleep. Alrighty. Sweet dreams. So now, since it actually has some text, we can comment it out. And I can do gd inside git hunk. Blammo. Thank you. I don't use this feature very often, because usually when I want to operate on the hunk, I either want to stage it, unstage it, or revert it, which is already a feature of git signs anyway. I do leader C R, and this already does what I could do by delete inside git hunk, you know? So there's kind of no need, in a sense. And that's basically it about it. You can also go to the next and previous git change. So you can do this and boom. Because it's the only one here, I don't get moved anywhere else. Let's go and look at some more changes that I have. Only has a single change, only has a single change, single. Well, this has two changes. So I can do boom. Now I go to the next. If I do two, interestingly, I end up at the same place. It's not very obvious because I get jumped regardless. Like this. But yeah, that's the same place because I did two and I ended up in the same place. This is very, very convenient if you want to look at all of the changes that you have in a file. So first I use telescope to look at all of the changes that you have here. Like, okay, what did I change in Rust format? That comment is now from 80 to 110. Let's go to the next one and see how it still has the inline diff open when I move. It's really, really convenient. And I'm like, I changed it from 82 to 110. Gotcha. And then you can go to the next file, you know? So that's the kind of workflow that you can achieve, which is super nice. And this plugin is really, really lovely because of, well, first, the fact that it doesn't need to have extra symbols here. It can just recolor the numbers. I find that really fucking cool. Then the fact that you can stage the entire hunk or just lines. You could also do that in VS Code, but it was so fucking slow. And I don't mean it in the usual Rust programmer way, where it's like light speed effectively, and the programmer is saying, oh my god, it's so slow. Like a certain individual that I enjoy the presence of, but goddamn, he keeps saying, oh, fish shell is so slow. Like, come on, man. How can you possibly tell? Are you sure you're human? I wonder if anyone has got who I'm talking about. It would be pretty exciting. But yeah. So VS Code was like visibly and very, very obviously slow in that fashion. If I tried to go through the changes and commit or rather stage them one by one, if I staged two different changes too closely to one another, the previous change would get unstaged in VS Code, which is really fucking bad. Well, that's not an issue with git signs. It does it immediately. Like, it was as fast as it looked. It's like done. It's done. And I go to the next one to stage it. No weird behavior. However, there is this weird behavior that sometimes happens with git signs, and as you know, when something only happens sometimes, that's the worst situation. And it's the fact that sometimes it will not be able to stage or unstage anything. Like, it will just lag out, bug out, and it will not be able to do any actions. And at that point, you're kind of back to having to git add -p for interactive staging or just commit it like this, for example. Which sucks, but it happens very rarely, and I don't remember the last time it bugged out like this. Maybe it got fixed, I don't know. But it is something to like consider and think about. Yeah, so this is a really, really cool plugin. Yeah, I think I'm done for today. I talked about most of the things that I wanted to talk about. So thanks for watching, and bye.